This is class on fundamentals of Buddhism. So you have learned about the Buddha and some important teachings and then some characteristics of the Buddha himself. So today we learn about beings on the spiritual path. When Buddha taught, he laid down a spiritual path for his disciples to follow. And those who go along this spiritual path will ultimately gain freedom from suffering. But before we go to the spiritual path itself, we need to know different beings, different individuals on this spiritual path. So we'll begin with the one who is lowest on this spiritual path, and then go up one by one. So those who are on the spiritual path can be divided into broadly divided into two. The first are called Buddhism12, and the second Ariya. Now, Buddhism12 means worldling, that means a person who is not yet enlightened, so an unenlightened person. And Ariya means those who have gained stages of enlightenment. The Pali word Buddhism12 means people who are separate from those who are enlightened, or those who are more in number. So ordinary worldlings or unenlightened persons are called Buddhism12. And there are two kinds of Buddhism12, and the first one is called Andha Buddhism12, a blind worldling, and the second is, there are three kinds of Buddhism12, but two kinds of Buddhism12 are mentioned in the commentaries. So the first one is Andha Buddhism12, a blind worldling, and second Kalyana Buddhism12, a good Buddhism12, a good worldling or a well-informed worldling. And the third is Bodhisattva, but Bodhisattva is not included in the two kinds of Buddhism12, but because Bodhisattva is still a Buddhism12, I put him under the heading Buddhism12. Who is a blind worldling? Now, a blind worldling means a person who does not know the teachings of the Buddha, who has not heard the teachings of the Buddha, who had not questioned about the teachings of the Buddha. Now, there are teachings of the Buddha such as the aggregates, elements, bases, dependent origination, and then foundations of mindfulness, and so on. So these are the subjects taught by the Buddha, and if a person does not know, does not understand these teachings, he is called a blind worldling. A Kalyana Buddhism or a good worldling or well-informed worldling is the opposite of blind worldling. So he is a person who knows about the aggregates and so on, and not only knows about them, but he is able to discuss about them, or sometimes maybe come to decisions about these teachings. So such a person is called Kalyana Buddhojana, or well-informed worldling. So to become a Kalyana Buddhojana, we must make a study of the teachings of the Buddha. Now the third kind of Buddhojana is a Bodhisattva. Now Bodhisattva means a Buddha to be. That means a person who is destined to become a Buddha, but is still a Buddhojana, or an unenlightened person. According to teachings of Theravada, to become a Bodhisattva is not easy, because it is said that a person must make the aspiration that he becomes a Buddha in the future, and he must make that aspiration in the presence of a living Buddha. And then that living Buddha must give a declaration that this person will surely become a Buddha in the future, in the distant future. So only then is he recognized as a Bodhisattva. So to become a Bodhisattva is not an easy task in Theravada Buddhism. And the aspiration thus made will succeed only if he possesses 8 qualifications. If he does not possess these 8 qualifications, then his aspiration will not succeed, so he cannot become a Bodhisattva. This is the first qualification, the human state. That means he must be a human being in order to get the declaration from the Buddha that he will become the Buddha in the future. So if you make an aspiration as a Deva, then you will not become a Bodhisattva. So a person who makes the aspiration for Buddhahood must be a human being. That is the first qualification. The second qualification, he must be a man in order for his aspiration to succeed. So this is what is stated or taught in the books, and so we cannot avoid that. Although I'm sorry for women devotees. Third qualification, that he must have the capability to become an arahant in that life. Now when the Sumedha, the Bodhisattva of Gautama Buddha, made the aspiration for Buddhahood in the presence of Buddha Dipankara, he was endowed with what are called abhinyas, we'll come to that later, and also he had the capability to become an arahant if he wanted to at that time, or he he was endowed with necessary supporting conditions to attain arahantship in that life. Although he could become an arahant easily in that life, the hermit Sumedha gave up that opportunity and undertook a very, very long journey of the bodhisattva practice, because he wanted to save, or rather he wanted to help beings save themselves from suffering in the round of rebirth. The fourth qualification is seeing the Buddha. That means he must make the aspiration in the presence of a Buddha. And the fifth qualification is that he must be a monk or a recluse when he makes the aspiration. And the sixth qualification is the achievement of such noble qualities as abhinyas, etc. That means he must be endowed with jhanas and abhinyas. Abhinyas are supernormal powers gained through the practice of tranquility meditation. The seventh qualification is extreme dedication. That means his devotion to the Buddha must be very strong, so that he is prepared to give up his life for the Buddha. And the eighth is a strong desire for accomplishment. So he must have strong desire, a strong effort or exertion or endeavor for searching for the qualities that make a Buddha. Now, how strong must his desire be? Now, the commentaries explain this with similes. So the first one is, say, if it is believed that by the power of his own arms somebody is capable of crossing over the whole interior of the Chakavala sphere, that means the whole world, that has become one mass of water and getting to the further shore, such a person achieves Buddhahood. So if he believes in that, he does not deem it a difficult task for himself, but think, I, having crossed over this, will get to the further shore. That means, suppose somebody says to him, if you can cross by your own by the power of your own arms, if you can swim from this end of the world to the other end of the world, when the whole world is covered with water. So if you can swim to the other shore and reach the other shore, you will become a Buddha, then he will do so. So strong must his desire be for Buddhahood. Or if someone says, if with your bare feet you can cross the whole world system, or the whole world filled with flameless, smokeless, red-hot coals, and reach the other side, you will become a Buddha. So if he heard somebody say that and he believes in it, he is ready, he is willing to walk over the red hot coals and reach the other side of the world system. So this much his desire must be strong. The other simile is the whole world system filled with sharp-pointed swords uninterruptedly. And if somebody would say, if you can walk on those swords and reach the other side of the world system, you will become a Buddha, he would do so. Or the whole world system become a jungle of thorny creepers covered by a thicket of bamboo. And if somebody says, if you can cut through this wall system and reach the other side, you will become a Buddha, he would try to cut through this jungle of thorny creepers. And last, if he hears that Buddhahood can be attained after suffering in hell for 4 asankheyas and 100,000 eons, then he would suffer in hell for that long period. So his desire to become a Buddha must be very, very strong, and not just a weak wish. So if he is endowed with these 8 qualifications, then his aspiration will be successful. That means he will become a bodhisattva, or say an official bodhisattva. And it is mentioned in our books that a person who has become a bodhisattva will not have 18 kinds of, let us call, blemishes. And that means he will not be born blind, he will not be born deaf, he will not become insane in that life, in life, and he is not dumb, he does not become a cripple, and he is not born in outlying districts. You know, outlying district means outside India, actually. India is said to be the Majjhima Desa, right? The middle country, and outlying district means outside that area. Even some parts of India along the border and the whole world could be called the outlying districts. Okay. And then he does not take in the womb of a slave, he does not take conception in the womb of a slave woman. That means he will not be reborn as a slave. Then he does not have wrong view with fixed destiny. That means he will always believe in the law of karma, law of cause and effect. And then he will not suffer change of sex. And then he does not commit the 5 grievous karmas, killing one's own father and so on. And then he will not become a leper. And even when he is born in animal kingdom or as an animal, he will never be born an animal smaller in size than a quail, a small bird. And in some books it is added that greater than an elephant. So Bodhisattva, when he was reborn as an animal, he will not be reborn as an animal smaller than a quail and then bigger than an elephant. Now you know dinosaurs. And he is not born as hungry, thirsty and burning ghost and as an asura of Kalakanchika type. So he will not be reborn as a ghost who is always hungry and so on. And he will not be born in Aviji hell. Now, Aviji hell means the biggest or the lowest of the hells. And he will not be reborn in Lokantrika hell. Lokantrika hell means hell that lies between three world systems. The world systems are described like round trays. So when these round trays, three round trays meet together, there is a space between that space, and that is called Lokantara, the space between worlds. So those who are reborn there are called Lokantrikas. And when he is born in Kamavajra world, he is never reborn as a Mara, the evil one. And when born in Rupavajra realms, he is not born as a mindless being, and he is not born in Sodavasa realm. Sodavasa means pure abodes. Only Anagamis are born there. He is not born in the Arupavajra realms. That means those that have mind only and no physical form. And last is, he is not born in another world system. So these are the 18 blemishes. A bodhisattva will not suffer along his journey to Buddhahood. Now, what must a bodhisattva do? What must he practice? He must fulfill the 10 paramis, 10 qualifications. And he must fulfill these 10 paramis to the highest level. Now the word bodhisattva, we translate it as Buddha to be or something like that. Now bodhisattva, there are two words here compounded. Bodhi is one word and satta another word. And the commentaries give 3 meanings to this word. The first one is a person who is attached to body. Here body means enlightenment as a Buddha. So who is attached to, who is desirous of enlightenment as a Buddha. So such a person is called bodhisattva. Second meaning given in the commentaries is a wisdom person. Here sattva means a being and body means wisdom. So bodhisattva means a wisdom person, that means a wise person. Bodhisattva is always wise. Even when bodhisattva is reborn as an animal, he was a wise being. So bodhisattva, according to this definition, means a person who is wise or who possesses wisdom. And the third meaning is enlightenment person. That means a person who is sure to get enlightenment as a Buddha. So, in order to become a bodhisattva, it's not easy, right? Okay. So we we finished the different kinds of Buddhojanas. So in Theravada Buddhism, Bodhisattva is still a person who has not eradicated any mental defilement, and so who is still an unenlightened person, who is still a Buddhojana. Since he is a Buddhojana, he is sometimes reborn as an animal, sometimes as a human being, or sometimes as a deva. So if he was enlightened, then he would not be reborn as animals. That is why bodhisattvas in Theravada Buddhism are still Buddhojanas, but they are extraordinary Buddhojanas because they have given up their opportunity to get enlightenment and are willing to suffer a lot of suffering in samsara for full incalculables and 100,000 eons. Because bodhisattvas are Buddhojanas, Theravada Buddhists do not put bodhisattva on the same level as Buddhas. In fact, it is very, very rare that you see a statue of bodhisattva in Theravada monasteries and Theravada shrines, and they are not worshipped as they worship the Buddha. The bodhisattvas are not worshipped as the Buddhas are worshipped. Now we go to the enlightened ones. So enlightened ones are those who have reached the stages of enlightenment, that means who have realized the Four Noble Truths and who have eradicated mental defilements. There are four kinds of enlightened persons. Four kinds means excluding the Pajjika Buddhas and Buddhas. So if we include, if we take into account Pajjika Buddhas and Buddhas, we can say that there are six kinds of enlightened persons. Now, the first of those enlightened ones is Sotapanna. Sotapanna means one who has entered the stream of the noble path, who has eradicated two mental defilements, wrong view and skeptical doubt. They are the ones who have reached the first stage of enlightenment. Now, normally we say when a person becomes a Sotapanna, he will have only 7 more rebirths in the samsara. But there are 3 kinds of Sotapanna mentioned in the scriptures, and so the first one is called at most 7 lives, Sotapanna. So that means he will have at most 7 rebirths in the future. So in the 7th life, he will definitely become an arahant and make an end of suffering. The second kind of Sotapanna is one who has only one birth in the future. So he will be reborn only once, and in that life he will become an arahant and make an end of suffering. And the third kind of Sotapanna is one who has from 2 to 6 rebirths in the future. So there are 3 kinds of Sotapannas. The next enlightened one is Sakadagami. Sakadagami means once returner. That means one who comes back only once to this human realm or human life. So this person does not eradicate any more mental defilements, but he makes these mental defilements thinner, or he makes them less. And in the commentary, 5 kinds of once returner are mentioned. The first one is a Sakadagami who becomes a Sakadagami in this life, in this human life, and finally passes away here. That means first he becomes a Sakadagami, and then later he becomes Anagami and then Arahant, and he makes his final passing away in this very life. Kind of Sakadagami is one who becomes a Sakadagami in this human life, and then he is reborn in the celestial realms, and he becomes an Arahant and passes away there. The third kind is one who becomes Sakadagami in the celestial realm, and then reborn here and in the human realm, becomes an Arahant and finally passes away. The Sakadagami is one who becomes a Sakadagami in the celestial realm and is reborn here and finally passes away here, human realm. He becomes a Sotapanna there and passes away there. I said, so you finish the true Sakadagami. He becomes a Sakadagami here, and then he is reborn in celestial realm, and then again he comes back to human realm and becomes an Arahant and finally passes away. Right? So first he becomes a Sakadagami here, a human realm, and after death he is reborn as a Deva, and then he dies as a Deva and reborn as a human being, and in that life he becomes an Arahant. Enlightened person is Anagami, non-returner, a person who does not come back here, means sense sphere, not just human and celestial realm, both. So a person who does not come back to the sense sphere realm, that person has eradicated sensual lust and ill will. So these two he abandons altogether. That means he cut them off so that they do not arise in him again. So Anagami is one who does not come back to the Kama Vajra world. Where is he reborn? Sudhavasa, right? So he is reborn in Sudhavasa realm, the Brahma realm. And there are 5 kinds of anagamis. Now, see whether you understand the first. One who, having been reborn spontaneously in a higher world, generates the final path before he has reached the midpoint of the lifespan. Now, he is an anagami here, and he is reborn in one of the pure abodes. And before reaching the midpoint of the lifespan, he becomes an arahant. That is the first one. What is the second one? The second one is one who becomes arahant during the second half of his life. So number 1 is one who becomes an arahant during the first half of his life, and the second is the one who becomes an arahant during the second half of his life. Now number 3 is one who, having been reborn spontaneously in a higher world, attains the final path without much exertion. So he doesn't have to practice much. And number 4, one who becomes an arahant with much exertion. So he had to practice much. Now, by the way, you see the word sankhara there in number 3 and number 4. A-sankhara and sa-sankhara. If you strike out the A and sa, you get sankhara. Now the word sankhara here means exertion, effort. So I told you that sankhara, the word sankhara has many meanings. Sankhara means what is conditioned or what conditions, and here sankhara means exertion or effort. Now, all sankharas are impermanent. What do you understand by sankhara there? There by sankhara you understand those that are conditioned. So you understand it in a passive sense. In the word sankhara khanda, that means those that conditions, those that condition, conditioner. So you understand there in active sense. So, what about in avijja paccaya sankhara in the dependent origination? Active or passive? Active. Because sankhara there means karma. Fifth one is one who, having been reborn spontaneously in a higher world, passes from one higher realm to another until he reaches the Akaneta realm. Now there are 5 Sudhavasa realms. So he is reborn in the first one, and then reborn in the second one, and then in the third, in the fourth, and the fifth. So he goes up one realm after another until he reaches the highest one, and then becomes an arahant during that time, during that life, and makes an end of suffering. Now the 4th enlightened person is an arahant. Arahant means a person who is worthy to accept gifts. He is called worthy to accept gifts because gifts given to him bring abundant results. So he is the one who has reached the highest stage of enlightenment and who has eradicated all the remaining mental defilements. So when one becomes an arahant, all mental defilements are gone. There is no more mental defilement in his mind, and so he is the one who possesses total purity of mind. So arahant is a one who has eradicated all mental defilements. Since he has eradicated all mental defilements, there is no more rebirth for him. So after the death of an arahant, there is no more rebirth. So the death of an arahant is compared to a light going out, a lamp going out. Three kinds of arahant. The first is the chief disciple. In order to become a chief disciple, a person has to fulfill the paramis for 1 asankheya and 100,000 eons. Who are the chief disciples of Gautama Buddha? Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Moggallana. So there are only two chief disciples to a Buddha. The second kind of arahant is great disciple. In order to become a great disciple, one needs to fulfill paramis for 100,000 eons. So no 1 asankheya, just 100,000 eons or kappas. During the time of the Buddha, there were said to be 80 great disciples of the Buddha, but among those 80, chief disciples are included. So if we discount the two chief disciples, we can say there are 78 great disciples. Can you tell me some great disciples of the Buddha? Ananda? Yes. Kaccayana? Anuruddha? Mahakassapa? Okay. There are many. So they are called great disciples. Of arahant is called ordinary disciples. Now they need to fulfill paramis for less than 100,000 eons, maybe 100 lives or 1,000 lives or more. Now there are more ordinary disciples than the chief disciple and great disciples. Okay, we come to Pacceka Buddha, separate Buddha or an individual Buddha, or some call silent Buddhas. Not because they are totally silent, but because they cannot teach as Buddhas do, so they are called silent Buddhas. So separate Buddhas. A separate Buddha is a person who gains enlightenment by himself without any help from any person. They don't need to hear from another person. Now, the other arahants, chief disciples, great disciples, and ordinary disciples need to hear from another person to practice meditation and to become arahants. But Pacceka Buddhas are different from arahants because, like Buddhas, they do not have any teachers. So without the help of any person, they attain enlightenment all by themselves. But They are incapable of helping others attain enlightenment. They cannot teach others to become enlightened, like Buddhas and the disciples do. People who who get the opportunity to listen to them can be reborn in celestial worlds and so on, but they cannot become enlightened. So this is the difference between disciples, Pachika Buddha, and Buddhas. Attain and Arahants need instruction from others, and they can help others attain enlightenment. Pachika Buddhas do not need instruction from others, and they cannot help others to become enlightened. Buddhas do not need instruction from others, and they can help others to attain enlightenment. So we must not understand that Pachika Buddhas do not preach. Actually, they preach, but only they cannot make others attain enlightenment by their preaching. So in the Jatakas and also in Sutta Nibbata, we find Pachika Buddhas preaching, or at least saying a verse or two. So they do teach, but they cannot teach as well as the Buddhas do. So they gain enlightenment themselves, but they cannot, maybe they cannot describe, or they cannot put into words and preach to beings. Now, in order to become a Pachika Buddha, one needs to fulfill the paramis for 2 asankheyas and 100,000 eons. So half the period of the Buddhas. And a Pachika Buddha appears only when there is no Buddha in the world. So when there is Buddha, there are no Pachika Buddhas. So right now there are no Pachika Buddhas because there is still the dispensation of the Buddha. So they appear only during the interval between 2 Buddhas. Spiritually they are higher than the Arahants and lower than the Buddhas. Now last we come to the Buddha, the best of all beings. So a Buddha is one who has eradicated all mental defilements without leaving any residue, and who possesses omniscience, great compassion, and countless other qualities. Now, Arahants also eradicate all mental defilements. But it is said that Arahants cannot eradicate that is called habit. Buddhas could eradicate all mental defilements along with the habit formed from these mental defilements. And I think I have told you about this many times, and you remember the story of Pilinda Vacha, who although after becoming an Arahant, addressed people as wicked people, and so on. So although Arahants and Buddhas eradicate all mental defilements. The eradication of Buddhas is total, without leaving any residue or any smell of mental defilements. And Buddhas possess omniscience, all-knowing wisdom. That means whatever they want to know, they know without hesitation, they know without interference. So that is peculiar to Buddhas and not possessed by Arahants. And then they possess great compassion, Mahakaruna. Now, Arahants possess Karuna, ordinary Karuna, and we also have Karuna, ordinary Karuna. But what the Buddhas possess is called great compassion, because Buddhas sacrificed many lives, to be able to help beings help themselves, or to help beings save themselves. Okay, Buddha possesses countless other qualities. Now there are three kinds of Buddhas. Now, the first one is Buddha whose wisdom is predominant. In order to become a Buddha whose wisdom is predominant, one needs to fulfill paramis for 4 asankhya's and 100,000 eons. Kind of Buddha is one whose faith is predominant. He needs to fulfill paramis for 8 asankhya's and 100,000 eons. So twice the time for one whose wisdom is predominant. The third is one whose effort or exertion is predominant. And such a person needs to fulfill paramis for 16 asankhya's and 100,000 eons. Suppose you want to make an aspiration for Buddhahood. Which Buddha would you choose? Huh? Wisdom predominant? Now there was one sayardaw in Burma. He was He was dull. He couldn't learn easily. So if he wanted to memorize one verse, he repeated it for 108 times. So he had a rosary, and then he repeated it for 108 times, so that he got it by heart. Later he became a very learned sayardaw, and he wrote a book on Pali grammar. And at the end of that book, he made an aspiration: may I become a third kind of Buddha. May I become a Buddha whose effort is predominant. So he was willing to suffer for 16 asankhya's, not just 4 or 8, and 100,000 kalpas. Okay, these are the beings or individuals on the Buddhist spiritual path. So from the top to the bottom, first what? The Buddha, and then from the top, Pachika Buddha, Arahant, how many kinds? 3 kinds of Arahants: chief, great, and ordinary. And then below Arahants, Anagamis, non-returner. Below Anagamis, Sagadagamis, once returner. Below Sagadagamis, Sodabanas, stream entrant. Below Sodabanas, unenlightened Putthajanas, worldlings. How many kinds of Putthajanas? 2. Kalyana Putthajanas, right? Well-informed Putthajanas and under Putthajanas, blind Putthajanas. And then we put Bodhisattva among Putthajanas. Now, one thing to notice about the word Arahant. Now, whenever we use the word Arahant, we almost always mean disciples. But actually, Buddhas are also Arahants. Pachika Buddhas are also Arahants. You know the nine qualities of the Buddha. Itipiso Bhagava Arahant, Samma Sambuddho, and so on. So the word Arahant is used as an attribute of the Buddha. So basically the word Arahant means both disciples and the Buddhas and Pachika Buddhas. But most of the time we use the word Arahant to mean disciples only. So that also we must keep in mind when we read the Buddhist books or texts. Since this is a study course, I give you different kinds of Sotapannas and so on. But they are not essential. So if you do not understand all of them, don't be depressed. But for your information, so I give these different kinds of enlightened persons or noble persons. And there are much more to say about them. But this course is just a fundamentals. So we will not go into details and also into different statements about these individuals. So if you do not remember all of them, it's okay. I want you to remember just the four noble persons or 4 enlightened persons: Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arahant, and then Pachika Buddha and Buddhas. And now I told you only four enlightened persons. Actually, how many enlightened persons are there? How many noble persons are there? No. How many have you heard? Well, not today. I didn't tell you about that in the class. But how many do you know? 8, yeah. So I left out 4, right? Yeah, deliberately I left out. Because the 8 enlightened persons mean just 4 persons, actually, right? But at the moment of Magga consciousness, he is called a Magga person. And then from the Phala moment onwards, he is called a Phala person. But Magga person, Magga Jita lasts for only one moment, one brief moment, a billionth of a second. So for that brief moment, he is one person, and the next moment, he is another person. But in actual practice, we can just get Sotapanna and so on, Phala persons and not Magga persons. So in order not to confuse you, I say only full enlightened persons. But you may have heard that there are 8 enlightened persons. So both are correct. Okay.